welcome to the University of Texas at Dallas if you're from the community. My name is John Gooch. I am 20 years now as faculty at University of Texas at Dallas. I'm program head for communication studies and also faculty in communication studies. I will be moderating or attempting to moderate the debate tonight between Mayor Doobie and Mr. Omar. It is my pleasure to introduce Mayor Bob Doobie. Mayor Doobie has been a dedicated public servant in Richardson for many years, beginning with a long career in education where he spent 40 years in the RISD as a teacher, coach, and athletic director. In 2017, he transitioned into city leadership when he was elected to the Richardson City Council, later becoming mayor in 2023 and continued to give back to the city. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Doobie. We would also like to introduce Amir Omar to the stage. Mr. Omar has devoted many years to volunteership in Richardson. Since 2009, he has been recognized and awarded by the Richardson Chamber of Commerce One Man Dallas and was named Regional Community Leader of the Year by the Greater Dallas Asian American Chamber of Commerce. He was elected to Richardson's City Council in 2009 and is now running for mayor in hopes of further serving his community. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Amir Omar. So, very quickly before we get into it, let me just explain the format for tonight's debate. We will ask a question. We have a series of questions here. We'll ask a question, and then each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to that question, followed by a 7-minute period of kind of discussion back and forth between the two candidates. So we just had our coin flip on stage, and Mayor Doobie won that coin flip, so we will direct this question to him first, and then Mr. Omar will be able to give his 1 minute response to the question as well. All right? So we've chosen a highly uncontroversial topic for the first question, and that is taxes. Richardson has historically maintained a balance between commercial and residential tax contributions, but recent changing market conditions are slowly putting pressure on that model. How would each of you, as mayor, ensure that Richardson remains financially stable while balancing tax rates and essential city services? Mayor Doobie, you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, and I'm honored to answer that question. First of all, the city works off of a premise of trying to keep a tax ratio with corporate businesses at around 60% and the citizens or residential at that 40%. And we're right there close doing that. It's maybe 59-31, somewhere around that. We will continue to work diligently to bring in economic development. Just in this past year, 2024, we've had $250 million worth of capital investments back into our city. We just recently added more here in 2025. Our tax rate is about 9% higher than projected already this time last year. We do budget conservatively to make sure that we have some leeway if possible, but overall, we are right on track and ahead of time for that to continue to be at that ratio, and we will continue to bring in economic development. And we, matter of fact, just had another announcement today. So I'm feeling very, very pleased with that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, so much. It might be helpful, too, if you could use the microphone, please. I know we have some people in the back who might have some little bit of difficulty hearing. Mr. Omar.
Thank you. It's an incredibly important issue, and it's probably one of the major reasons why I'm running for mayor. Mayor Doobie correctly mentioned that we have had a target for the longest time of 60% commercial and 40% residential when it comes to property tax. But a couple years ago, it went from 60% to 59, and then a year ago, it went from 59 to 58. And so my concern is that there's actually a trend of it moving in the wrong direction. And that's maybe one of the differences between the two of us. I think as mayor, it's going to be important to be able to speak truth to our residents, to explain to them that not everything is rosy, but we've got a plan to get ourselves to a better place. If we start from the standpoint of everything's perfect, then it's really hard to explain when things don't work out. Like a year ago, when the budget all of a sudden was a little bit upside down based on less than expected sales tax. So we just need to be careful about the way we talk about these things. We need to make sure that we're being honest and we're being forthright with our residents. And I think ultimately that gives us the best chance to lead from a position of trust versus telling you that everything's rosy and then 8 months into the year trying to figure out how you're going to be able to cut the budget to make up for the shortfall.
Okay, thank you so much. We can now entertain some response to that with Mayor Duty.
There's really nothing to respond to. We are doing very well. As far as a shortfall, there was a little bit of a drop, but we've made that up. But that was a regional scenario, not just a City of Richardson scenario. So as we look through this, we are ahead of the curve regionally right now, doing some amazing things. We are not in a position where we are leading our citizens incorrectly. We are telling the truth. We post that every quarterly. If you go to our city council meetings, you'll get a financial report. Our audit that we just had was a perfect audit. Perfect. We are now 15 straight years being a AAA bond rating. That's with Standard & Poor's and Moody's. We aren't hiding anything. The state comptroller just said we are one of 20 cities out of 1,200 cities in the state of Texas to receive the Transparency Trailblazer Award. These are not things that they just hand out. Those are based on merit, based on the facts and things that we're doing. Our citizens hear from us often, and we continue to share nothing but the truth. Thank you.
So this is a place again that I think we differ. The city manager, and I watch every single council meeting, so I think it's important to watch and listen to what the city manager has to say. And in this latest budget, he said at least 3 times during the very first meeting that it wasn't the budget we were expecting, meaning it was a better budget than they were expecting. So they were concerned about some of the trends. What were those trends they were concerned about? Office buildings in Richardson, the city manager said, are expected to drop 10% year over year for the next few years. So that's a concern. Now, why are they dropping? They're dropping because, unlike what was said earlier about all the wonderful things we're doing in terms of bringing companies here, we're actually net losing companies. Those companies and those employers no longer fill up the buildings the way they used to. When those buildings aren't full, you end up with a lower valuation on commercial office buildings. So my number one task as your next mayor is to get out there and help our city manager, help our economic development team figure out how we bring the next round of companies to Richardson. It also would be getting focused on making sure that we're doing the retention activity that we need to do. Because we've got a lot of great smaller companies that are growing, and the biggest fear I have is that we continue to have them leave us going to Plano or going to McKinney. We have Asa Abloy, for example, that left Richardson and went to Plano. What were we doing to make sure that we were staying sticky with that particular employer? And as mayor, I get to know them personally, make sure that whatever their growth strategy is something that I would be aware of, that myself, the city manager, and the economic development team would have the ability at that point to see what we could do ahead of the curve, before the McKinneys and Planos and others can get to them, to actually work with them to make sure that they stay in Richardson and grow in Richardson. So this is a difference between us. Coming from a business background, coming from a technology background, my experience allows me to have conversations with these companies that hopefully make sense to them. I'll be able to speak their language. As an executive, I'll be able to speak to other executives in their language so that they decide to remain right here in Richardson.
Mayor Duty?
Yes, I'm happy to respond. We meet, when I say we, city manager, Mr. Van Macker, and I, we meet with multiple companies every single month. We have a lunch that is our economic development lunch. I have no problem communicating with companies. I have handled multi-million-dollar budgets. I have worked and helped build bond projects through the years, over millions of dollars worth of those bond projects. I know how to work with people. I can work with a custodian, I can work with the president of the bank, or I can work with anyone in between. What we are saying in our message is, we are here to help. And part of the council goals is to work at the speed of business. When those companies want to visit, there's no middleman anymore. We took economic development out of the Chamber of Commerce hands so that Mr. Magner and myself as a team could work and meet with all of these corporate presidents and the people that are working behind the scenes to come here. We are up for another award just this coming week that we may get for having one of the biggest redos in all of North Texas. If we get that award, we'll share that with you. I can honestly tell you that companies are coming, they want to come. As a council, we have already approved 3 different projects where we're taking down old Class B office buildings and building, adding mid-range housing or apartments near the TOD. The dark stations are very, very much a part of what we're doing, and that's going to bring our retail. We've also, talking about retail, we have reconstructed or helped reconstruct 6 different shopping centers, and we're still moving on. We're not sitting around on our hands acting like we don't know what we're doing. I can assure you that. And the numbers are showing. So, thank you.
Mr. Owen, we have a few seconds if you'd like to reply to that.
Sure. So I think what the mayor spoke about is actually right. He is doing those things. He's meeting on a regular basis when they do a group meeting with the companies. He's showing up to the lunch. And frankly, this highlights one of the big differences between us. There's a difference, in my opinion, between being a proactive mayor that is going to go and meet one-on-one with every single one of these major employers versus waiting for everyone to come to me for a lunch. Right? It's just a difference in approach. It's a ceremonial approach versus a proactive mayor approach. I mentioned earlier, and since we're still talking about how we're doing exceptionally well, another company we lost was a company called onsemi. It's a semiconductor company. Now, a semiconductor company in Richardson makes a ton of sense. Why we weren't all over that company, making sure that they were feeling the love every single day, so that as they grew, in an environment where we have UTDallas, in an environment where we have other semiconductor companies, that's the way you build an economic development effort. And you can't just let companies like that move on. And so, from my perspective, I'm going to treat economic development as the urgent need that it is. We have to do what we can to shore up our tax base, because if we don't, the next thing that happens is city services and other things that have to become diminished in order to make the budget balance. So from my perspective, I appreciate that we started off with this. It's an incredibly important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We need to move on to the next topic area, which is, it kind of carries with the theme a little bit. It's already been discussed, but it's economic development. And the question, which will go to Mr. Omar first this time, is the city of Richardson faces both opportunities and challenges in economic development. If elected, what specific policies or initiatives would you implement to ensure Richardson remains an attractive destination for businesses while also adapting to changing economic conditions?
Yeah, so again, I'm glad that we're kind of continuing on this theme, and I think it's a great way for us to go. Let me also make clear, when it comes to economic development, that it's incredibly important that we are focused also on our current business versus what's out there. And so let me give you an example. Recently, retail is a very big need here in Richardson. We have residents tell us every single day, gosh, we want to have great restaurants to go to. We want to have other good retail. And so you got to listen to those businesses when they're talking to you. And you have to make some difficult decisions. Hopefully, there's a plan in place that will help you make those difficult decisions. So for example, at Interurban, which is one of the big study areas here in Richardson, we've got a whole study that describes what should happen at Interurban. And what happened was an economic development opportunity showed up where a particular car dealership decided they wanted to expand their operations all the way to Interurban. Now, okay, that sounds like economic development. Maybe we should move forward with that. Except we have a plan that says specifically not to use car uses in that particular area, to actually de-emphasize car uses instead of expanding car uses. And what happened at that council meeting? You had small businesses, people who had already bought into Richardson's plan, come forward and say, please stick with the plan. We invested in your plan as a city, and now you're going backwards on your plan. So let me ask you, if you're the next business coming to Richardson, and you're about to invest in one of our plans, are you going to be concerned that we're going to change our plan 6 months later? And what is that going to do to your business?
We can come back to that thought in just a minute. We can get Mayor Doobie his minute to respond to the question.
Well, that's a little bit shaded as far as the direction which you're saying. We have a comprehensive plan. It's in Vision Richardson. We worked very, very hard with all the community's input, and there were multiple town halls for that. There were multiple meetings all over to have input. It spanned over months and months to get input. So we do get the input, and the vision changed. When we started looking at the new comp plan, everybody was saying the comp plan's old. It's old. You haven't done anything to it since 2009. So all of a sudden we have a little flexibility, and we have an opportunity to look at things a little bit differently. What you're saying is you want to look at it the way it was instead of how it is today. It was the council long before I got there that said they wanted redevelopment downtown, and for us to make it different, that council said, let's keep Main Street looking the same, have the brick look and the older buildings, and McKinney looked the same. Outside of that, everybody else was able to move around and do different things. It's still walkable, and it is very good vision. And then we just spent $5 million on a linear park green space as we partnered with DART to go up to the north from Bethlehem.
Mr. Omar?
Yes, so I want to make sure everyone understands there is something called a comprehensive plan. The latest one is called Envision Richardson. It did get quite a bit of citizen input, and all the things he said about Envision Richardson are absolutely correct. One of the things as a part of Envision Richardson is they named a number of focused study areas that hopefully at some point the next council or future councils might choose one of those areas to study a little bit deeper. One of those deep studies that I'm talking about is the downtown study. So these are two totally separate things. Envision Richardson was a much wider look at the city, where we actually paid consultants hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually look at a specific area and tell us, as experts, what can you do in that area over the next period of time. Now, those also got a ton of resident input, which makes them that much more valuable. And that's why when those same residents showed up to the council meeting and said, can we please stick with our plan, it was even more disappointing for them. It's why they didn't feel like they were being listened to any longer. I do want to say one last thing on this, which is, as mayor, because it's important that beyond talking about what's happened, that we talk about the future. And as mayor, I can tell you right now that what you can expect from me is every one of these basic plans that we've invested in gets reviewed on a regular basis, so that we're not reviewing what did the council in 2009 think while we have the person in front of us, the applicant in front of us, with an apartment complex that busts the plan wide open. Instead of waiting for that moment, as a proactive mayor, I'm suggesting we get together as a council, city planning commission, others that are invested in these plans, and we review them on a regular basis. One, so that we all know what the plan is, and two, if there are adjustments to the plan, let's make it before there's a situation in front of us where we're doing it by the seat of our pants on a Monday night.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, for the record, each of those plans are reviewed on an annual basis, so that does already happen as part of the plan that we do have. So that's not an accurate statement as far as us just flying by the seat of our pants. I would tell you that. I'm very proud of the work that this council's done. And what Mr. Omar is indicating is that all 7 of us on this council haven't had a clue of what we do. And I'm going to say that as a team, we have looked at every detail, we've listened to every citizen, and we go into it with the advice and recommendations of the big picture. It's not one little thing. And each one of those citizens that has said that they are against something or for something, they had opportunities to share that information, and we listened to it. So you're taking things out of context when you said every citizen came in and was opposed to it, because that's not true. We asked every developer to visit with the neighborhoods in and around them before they ever come in front of the council. So we get information and we get feedback. And what you're advocating, I would say, is the city manager and city manager's staff's job to do, not the council's job to do. So thank you.
Mr. Omar?
Okay, so a couple things to clarify. If I did say every resident, I didn't mean every resident. I meant that the residents that came forward to speak, there were a number of residents that came forward to speak, begging that we stick with the plan. And by the way, a lot of these were 4-3 votes. So this attitude of, the team being together, that's just not accurate. There were council members that listened to the information, that heard the residents and the small businesses, and they decided to actually stick with the plan because they didn't want to abandon those people who had already invested in Richardson. So, I just want to clarify that. Second, if there's an annual review of every one of these study areas, then it's confusing to me why on a couple of these occasions you've said things like the vision is lost or the vision is blurry. You either know what the vision is because you're reviewing it every year and you're making sure that everyone on the team knows what it is, or you don't, and the vision is lost. So my impression is that our council doesn't necessarily every year review every one of these studies, and I heard comments that said exactly that during those council meetings. Beyond the council, our city planning commission should also be reviewing these because they're the first line of defense. They should know what the plans are as well. By the way, the arts commission should probably know a bit about it. The parks should know about it. Every one of our boards and commissions should have a good sense for what the vision is, because the way we develop a park, what we do from the arts perspective, all of that should have a cohesiveness so that we're all paddling in the same direction. And so that's what I would do differently as mayor, and that's all I have to say.
Mayor Duke, we have a little over a minute left here.
I can do it quicker than that. I disagree because I think we do all that currently, and I think that we're doing a really good job of doing it. And I think that the other 6 council members would attest to that. You can cherry pick things out. You can try to focus on 1 or 2 little items, but it's the big picture, and I think we're doing a really good job. I think the economic development says that. The numbers show it. And the fact that we were able to lower the tax rate by almost 2 cents per 100 this past year, I think that speaks volume about what we're doing and how conservative and creatively we are using taxpayer dollars in everything we do. And we are making changes that are very, very good and very futuristic in our thoughts. We're not looking to 1 or 2 years. We review it every year, but we're also looking to 25, 30 years down the road, and that's important. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'd like to pause for just a moment and take a question from the audience to make sure we acknowledge those who come tonight and their concerns and their curiosities about your campaigns. And I will direct this question to Mayor Dugan and offer Mr. Omar a chance to respond. Each gentleman will have a minute to answer the question and we'll go back and forth. The question for the audience is, what do you see as our biggest challenge as an older Dallas suburb? How do we attract younger families?
Thank you. By a third party, if you happen to come to the state of the city, we were by a third party named the 5th best place in America for young professionals. That's a third party assessment. We were also named the 6th best bikeable community in America. And I only bring both those up is because our youth is the future. They're moving here, is what that's saying. And it's one of the best places to create and start your businesses. And so a third party says it, it's not me making it up. There's evidence to back that up. I think that we have done some major things as far as doing things to include our community, to ensure that we have a place to be heard. I am very, very proud of the work we've done, and I really think that the future is with our youth, and I think that the opportunities are here. Our Chamber of Commerce has a young professional organization that they.
Mr. Mayor, the time has expired. We'll come back in just a moment to you. Mr. Omar, 1 minute, please.
Sure. So I think the number one thing, if we're trying to attract people, is to become a legitimate destination for people who want to do things that are uniquely Richardson. So what could those be? We've got DFW Chinatown, for example. A great place, a place that people come from all over the region to come and just have lunch or dinner there. We have UTDallas. I mean, what's going on right now with the 12 acres and the Anthemium and everything that you're doing in terms of the arts district there, that is a huge gift to Richardson. And so from my perspective, what I would do as mayor is I would focus on these really solid strengths and then figure out how we build something around those to where people would want to come, hang out, stay, become impressed with the city, and decide to make their place they want to live. I'll keep there.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, would you like to respond?
Well, I don't disagree with what he said, and all those are great things, the program you do, Anthony, and all those are wonderful things, and it brings people to UTDallas. We've also recently added a disc golf to Breckenridge Park. We have the annual events that we have. We have the Wildflower, we have the Cottonwood Art Festival, we have Huffines Trails. This council has budgeted this past year 9.5 miles of new sidewalks. It's making things more accessible for everyone, for the college students in general as well. Our partnership with DART is huge, and we have a great partnership with DART. They in tune are also helping complete those trails that run along with it, with our guidance and our help. So those are things that we've already done and we will continue to do, and I'm very pleased to say that they're very active. I mentioned the linear park, we down by the Dartway. So that's, another thing as far as activities. The Arapahoe Station is going to be the new biggest, greatest thing, and we're going to have an opportunity to really make that into an entertainment district, and that's what we're hoping to do there as well.
Mr. Omar?
Yeah, so let's talk about this linear park. It's a good idea, it's a great investment by the city. I think it's thrilling to see it, but it's an example of a place where they had a plan. The plan was to include a park, a linear park, but the plan said, keep it walkable, don't do more automotive uses. And so what we're doing as a city, just in this 2 years, is we're doing parts of the plan, and then we get to brag about those, which are good to brag about, the linear park, for example. But then we do something that goes against the plan, like allowing the car dealership to go all the way to interurban, messing up the walkability. So you can give me all the stats you like about what this third party and that third party had to say, but the truth is that we went against our plan and we did something that made it less walkable. Now let's go to downtown, where again, there's a study area. And one of the things that has been a destination for the last number of years in Richardson is a place called Staycation. It's a coffee shop that people love to go to. We finally have this really cool coffee shop with the backyard and all that stuff. And what happens is the plan that said, keep the blocks short, let's make sure it stays walkable all the way around it, that what we did instead is we said, hey, we're going to scrape staycation, we're going to scrape yet another block, and we're going to do a 2-block long apartment complex. That's not walkable. You're going to hear, oh, but they put a little walkway in the middle of the apartment complex. No one wants to walk in the middle of the apartment complex to get from point A to point B. It doesn't feel safe, and it won't feel safe for a lot of people. And so at the end of the day, we make decisions that are partly on the plan and then partly not on the plan, and then we ask ourselves, well, how come there aren't a bunch of businesses flocking here? Maybe we need 3,000 more apartments like we granted at Cityline. Why did we do that? It was zoned to include that same entertainment that you just heard about, and instead we just gave in to the developer and said, I guess no one's doing entertainment anymore, so let's just do 3,000 more apartments. That's not a focused vision. That's not the way leadership looks to me, and that's a part of why I'm running for mayor.
Mayor Doobie, would you like to respond?
Thank you, I'm happy to respond. Once again, the plan is a good plan, and we are doing the things that need to happen. If you want to talk about staycation, that's a whole different deal. 70%, if I'm not mistaken, of the clientele at staycation come out of the Heights neighborhood, and that's where they're going. They want to go. She said she wanted to go there, she being the owner, Nicole. So I don't think that's a big issue. And it was a business decision. It's not the city that's moving her by any means. She didn't own staycation. She leases staycation. And there's a lot of business things going on around that. You didn't mention the Nest, which is an open green space, very walkable, that's going in on that same street, Texas Street, in which people will be walking to and from. It's all outdoors, open retail and those type of things. It's medical, it's lots of different things. But that was approved. It's a wonderful concept, and it's going to be downtown and will help make a destination. The developers of the apartment complex you're talking about, they compromised. They met with everybody around. They put a passage through. It's well lit. It is something that is very accessible, and what else are they going to be going north and south to do off of Polk Street unless they're going to the Nest, which is open green space. And so you have the dark rail to the west, and then you'll have the Nest just to the east of that, and then you'll have downtown. Once again, we do want people there, and we will have more retail there when you have more people walking and gathering and finding that as a destination. And it truly will be. I don't think there's any problem with saying that it's going to be a destination. He can talk all he wants about a plan that is archaic, that it's already out the door, that is no longer. I'll give you an example. When I got on council, everyone on the council said, no more drive-through restaurants. You can't have drive-through restaurants. That's not what the citizens want. COVID hit, every developer came into the council and said, you have to have drive-in restaurants or people aren't going to go. The restaurants won't come if you don't have a drive-through restaurant or a drive-through window. And so we had to look at things differently because of COVID. We had to look at what the citizens wanted. Things change. And if he doesn't want to see change and doesn't want to see adaptation and hear what people are really saying, we're going to make decisions that's in the best interest of the majority as best we can without having any issues, hopefully, down the road, because it's well communicated. And we will continue to communicate, and we will look at it and revisit it on an annual basis.
If I could just, a few seconds real quick,
We need to move on. However, this next question, I'll get to this other issue. I can explain it anyway. It's on housing in neighborhoods. With housing costs rising across North Texas, how should Richardson address the need for affordable housing while also maintaining the quality and character of existing neighborhoods, and I believe this goes to you, Mr. Omar.
Sure, so let me wrap the first part and then we'll have 7 minutes, it seems, for us to work through the other one. But housing is important in this particular conversation as well. So let's start with a couple things just to wrap up what was last said, because it's important. What you heard the mayor say was that the residents said they don't want restaurants with drive-thrus anymore. And then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of developers came forward and said, all anyone wants is drive-thrus. He listened to the developer versus listening to the residents. And that's, again, just a part of the difference in the way we operate. I'm able to listen to the developer and then go, well, they have a vested interest. They build drive-thrus. Speaking of developers, and speaking of the Arapahoe Station, which he mentioned, which is the next big, bright thing for us, and I hope to be mayor so that I can help us actually get the full value of what we're going to do at Arapahoe Station. But decision one has already been made about Arapahoe Station. Decision one was to allow a salvage car lot to be the entry to Richardson at Greenville Avenue and Arapahoe. That was move number one for this incredible TOD that's being
Mr.
discussed.
Omar, your time is expired. We will come back to you in just one moment. Mr. Mayor Doobie, 1 minute.
Thank you. The salvage car lot, he's been talking about this for a couple of days, every time we talk. That dealership is a car lot that has a life expectancy period, we put a limit on it for 5 years. And then it's going to disappear. And that'll be about the time things are ramping up for the Arapahoe Station. So you'd rather have income, you'd rather have people that own the property have a chance to have some income. It makes sense, that's good business. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth with economic development. You don't want it or you do want it. But as far as decisions, I'll bring up a last vote. You want to pick on my voting and what I do. I know that for a fact, back when you were on the council, you were the only vote that did not want to make smoking of any type, whether it was hookah or smoking, the only one that didn't want to make it a special use permit. You wanted everyone to be able to do it anytime they want.
Mr. Mayor, the time has expired. Mr.
Thank you very
Omar.
much.
Yeah, so let's first talk about economic development. If the mayor's idea of a wonderful economic development deal is a salvage car lot on our most prestigious corner of Richardson, if he thinks that getting that revenue is so important to our budget, then it tells you a pretty clear distinction, or it shows you a pretty clear distinction between the two of us, because I would have said no. Salvage car lots are like one step away from pawn shops. Would we have also allowed a pawn shop to sit there for 5 years only? 5 years is 5 years that residents decide whether they're going to stay in Richardson or going to go away. That's the difference. Now, regarding this vote that he's talking about, it was specific to hookah bars. And what happened with that particular vote was a couple of our council members said, hey, we think there's too many hookah bars. And so therefore, we think that it's important that we reduce the number of hookah bars. And my only objection to it was that I thought it was a weird practice as a council to just pick one sort of company after the other just based on how many there were. One of the things I said during that council meeting, and by the way, that council meeting is recorded. Thanks to my transparency initiatives in 2009, it was recorded from 2010 on. And so you can go watch the council meeting. One of the things I did real time is I said, hey, we got 27 dollar stores. Shouldn't we look at dollar stores too? I mean, why would we regulate one business like that without regulating the others? And that was my objection to it, was on the basis of principle. The last thing, he mentioned the Nest. That's something that both the mayor and I are very excited about. Okay? The Nest is going to be an amazing development. It's going to be a one-of-a-kind. It's going to be a huge deal, and I thank you for approving it. I thank the rest of the council for approving it. It was a great development.
Mayor
But
Doobie.
it's in downtown. And the thing is, what you want to do with all these developments is you want to be able to have someone going from one attraction to another attraction. And so what has happened, because we broke our own plan, is you could be hanging out at the Nest, and now you gotta walk around a 2-block long apartment complex to get to the other businesses on the other side of downtown. That's not a cohesive approach, and that's different than the way I would have done it as mayor.
Mayor Duty. Thank you very much. That's not true, because the nest will be on the corner of Texas Street, and even Texas is not going to be blocked off by the development. So they can just walk right up Texas Street next to the guardrail. They can go, when they get to Polk Street, they can go right, left, or keep going to Main Street. So economic development is all, I guess, in the eye of the beholder based on what you're hearing tonight. I can honestly tell you that we do not say, as it relates to the car dealership, how much money is going to be coming in. Number one, money will be coming in, but that land is owned by a person who is a businessman. And if you're going to tell people, businessmen, you can't build on your own property, or you can't have something on your own property and make them take a beating, then they're gonna go north, or they're gonna go somewhere else if we're not user friendly. And we talk about being business to business and connecting businesses so that they can work together. And that's what's gonna keep them here in Richardson, is the connectivity. And those are goals that our council has said that we want here. Businesses working with businesses. And we wanna work at the speed of business. We don't get to pick, the different timelines and that type of stuff. So, thank you.
So I just want to make sure I understand where the line is. What other businesses are we allowing that person to just put there on the corner? Are we just going to approve anything? Are we going to be okay with if they would have come with a pawn shop and said they had a pawn shop that wanted to go there, would we have been okay with that? I should hope not. Now, the question originally, which I was a part of the problem, I didn't answer quite the question, was about housing. And you can't talk about housing while standing right here at UTDallas without talking about the housing crisis that's going on for the students. It is something that as a city, we need to make sure that we get focused on. Mayor Doobie has voted against a few of the housing development opportunities again and again. I personally would like to work with the neighborhoods to make sure that we're doing everything we can to create housing that makes sense to Richardson residents and also helps our students have more housing options. Now, the last thing I want to say about housing is, especially when it comes to affordability, outside of some sort of partnership with HUD or that sort of thing, affordable housing in Richardson is a difficult thing to figure out, because there's a lot of folks coming to our region on a daily basis, and we aren't big enough to solve the entire region's housing problem by adding more and more apartments. It doesn't lower the prices because of all the things that are going on in the region.